And happening tonight, a meeting at Old Saybrook focusing on the town's police department and what's been described as an unpleasant work environment. Channel 3's Matt McFarland is your reporter now, live from Old Saybrook Town Hall with the details on this investigation. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Roger. Well, the task, finding out why so many officers were leaving this department. And tonight, those results will be laid out at a town meeting. Past year investigators with the Police Executive Research Forum, also known as PERF, interviewed more than 70 people asking the question, why do officers leave the Old Saybrook Police Department? Since 2009, when current Police Chief Michael Spira took over, around 54 staffers have either resigned, retired, or have been terminated. PERF called the losses a troubling trend, citing that unlike national staffing trends, which are improving, OSPD continues to lose personnel. And while the chief expressed concern too, pointing to officers leaving for better pay and benefits, PERF investigators say most officers left due to a work environment described as unhealthy and filled with stress and paranoia. The report includes 31 recommendations for improvements. And Old Saybrook's first selectman says the police commission, which oversees the department, will review them all.
My reaction is that the police commission needs to delve into this report, look at the recommendations, and see if in fact those recommendations help us continue to attract and retain.
Now, Chief Michael Spira telling Eyewitness News he reviewed the report and is awaiting the presentation tonight, adding that it would be premature to make any comment about their work prior to the conclusion of PERF's contractual obligation to the citizens of Old Saybrook. It's important to respect the process. Your reporter live in Old Saybrook, Matt McFarland, Channel 3, Eyewitness News.
Okay, Matt, thank you.